11 million people after the central Chinese city where the pandemic emerged reported its first local infections in more than a year. And officials announced 7 locally transmitted cases had been found among some migrant workers in the city, breaking that year-long streak after they initially stamped out that outbreak with what was at that point an unprecedented lockdown back in early 2020. Now, China reported some 61 domestic cases nationwide Tuesday as the outbreak of the fast-spreading Delta variant has now reached dozens of cities. We're joined from Beijing by journalist Patrick Falk. Patrick, thanks for being with us here. The juxtaposition of the situations is striking as I talk to you from Israel now. Nearly 4,000 cases in a nation with less people than the city of Wuhan. But we see Wuhan going back to strict measures. What's the situation there? What are the authorities planning to do?
Yeah, well, we only heard a short while ago that authorities are taking the step of testing the entire population of Wuhan. As you said, 11 million people. On top of the 7 cases that were reported yesterday, there have been 3 new cases reported today. And of course, Wuhan is hitting the headlines because of its association with COVID-19, it being the place where the virus was first detected. These are still tiny, tiny numbers that we're seeing, but, you know, it is significant because Wuhan hasn't seen any locally transmitted cases since June 2020. So this is a drastic step. These new cases have been linked to a migrant worker who reportedly came into contact with travelers that had come from Jiangsu, which is actually where the main outbreak is in China. He came into contact with them at a train station. Authorities appear to have gotten on top of that quite quickly. But the fact that they're taking this step, this drastic step of testing the entire city now suggests that the situation could get much worse, or at least that's exactly what they're trying to prevent from happening.
Well, certainly appears they're taking the situation extremely seriously, to say the least. But we've seen China really stamp out various outbreaks that emerged over the last year or more in different parts of the country. What's different this time? And are the country's borders open? What's the access from foreigners at this point?
Well, nothing in terms of access from outsiders has changed so far, but there are going to be a lot more restrictions coming into play, we would imagine. There are also measures right now coming into play with people not being allowed to travel to certain cities that are, you know, high-risk zones, if you like, and people are generally being encouraged not to undertake any unnecessary travel. And, you know, the real big thing that's changed, you mentioned it, is the Delta variant. It's the thing that's on the tip of everybody's tongue. You know, we've had 90 new cases reported in China today, bringing the total for the past 11 days to around 400. Again, that's not a huge amount in terms of numbers that we're comparing with the rest of the world. But, you know, people have been spooked here by the speed at which it spread. It spread to 15 different provinces. And bear in mind, we have incredibly tight restrictions here, track and tracing sort of apps and so on and so forth in China. So it really has gotten people worried, and there is a concern that the Delta variant, and we don't know just how effective the Chinese vaccines are against it right now, there is a concern that it could break China's track record of largely keeping the virus at bay.